Greetings YouTube, welcome back. It's another video today. Basically just going to be talking about something that I've noticed in the last few years that has been a big help once you can apply it to whether it's your learning, self-improvement in general, your mental state. And this is something that I have heard people reference before. Not They've not really given it a name or anything. I just gave it a fancy little name, but I call it the comfort zone method. So what is the comfort zone method and how can you apply it to your learning, self-improvement, improving your mental state, things like that. So it's gonna jump right in. So what was it? The comfort zone method. Basically, does it mean seeking your comfort zone to accelerate your learning process, to accelerate your self-improvement? No, it doesn't mean that. If you guess that it means that, you're wrong. So what does it mean, this comfort zone method? Basically, it means quite the opposite. You're trying to seek discomfort, because in order for there to be a comfort zone, it implies that there is areas where you're not as comfortable. So you're trying to seek that zone where you're not as comfortable. So what you're doing is you're awakening your mind. You're always on edge, kind of. You're always concerned. You're always putting in that extra effort to be spot on, because you're not as comfortable as usual. And I would say, for example, and I'm going to use language as the first example because you know me. But for example, Russian was the first language I tried to learn. I finally got the hang of how to actually get to a point where you could start speaking. Spanish, that was the next language that I made significant strides in. And now Spanish is probably better than my Russian. But why am I suffering with German, which is a little harder than Spanish, but significantly easier than Russian to learn? And that's because I spent most of my time with German reading and listening. And I'm so subconscious about my level in German that I don't spend nearly as much time practicing speaking. So I've stayed in my comfort zone. So my learning has kind of slowly but surely progressed. My level, I should say, slowly but surely progressed, but not have reached, the level that I want to be at. And then I always put it down and pick it back up and put it down and pick it back up. So I've stayed in my comfort zone with German. That's why I'm not progressing. With Spanish, was quite the opposite. I was throwing myself out there, sounding like a complete lunatic for 3 months straight, trying to have as much conversations as I can, saying all sorts of stuff in the best way I can. And I know I must have sounded like a complete caveman, but it paid off. So that's the language way how you can apply it, the comfort zone method. Throw yourself in situations where you're going to be uncomfortable. I knew I was going to sound crazy, and I was subconscious about it, but I did it anyway. And then now that I'm at a more comfortable level, I'm always in my peak performance with the basics of Spanish. When I just meet somebody and have a little basic conversation, that's comfortable for me to do now. And usually, I just go into it with no fear because I'm a bit more comfortable now, but I have to do that with German. So another example, I would say, with music. For example, I heard of a musician. He's playing guitar and he has a keyboard, and he has some keyboard parts that he plays in between in songs and stuff like that. Not as much as he plays on his guitar, but he always has the keyboard at practice just out of reach So he's always got to turn and go and try and do something quickly on the keyboard and then go back to his guitar. And he does that deliberately. So on concert nights, when he's actually performing, he's always in his peak performance because the keyboard's right where he needs it to be. And then he could just switch smoothly, transition, play his keyboard part, and swap back to the guitar without even putting much effort into it, because he always has it just out of reach. So you have to make things just a little uncomfortable for yourself in order to progress. How can you apply this to something such as mental illness? For example, depression, anxiety, which is something which I'm not ashamed to admit that I go through sometimes. But how can you apply it to that? So, with things that come from the mind, in order to reverse it, you have to reverse the way of thinking that has led you to feel that way in the first place. People who manage to do this better and get back on track, get back to feeling all right, are people who have a broad perspective. People who have many viewpoints and view situations from different angles. So, for example, what am I trying to say? So for example, the people who can do this are people who have more perspective. And what is perspective? Perspective is a viewpoint. So different perspectives, different viewpoints. So comfort zone in the middle. Another viewpoint, you need to step out of your comfort zone in order to have that other viewpoint and get more life experience. Step out of your comfort zone another way, another way, and another way. So then you have all of these different viewpoints from constantly, being in many different situations, which was less than comfortable for yourself. You have all these different viewpoints, and it gives you more understanding and a broader perspective, which will help you then apply that to the things that are making you feel down in the first place. And you will slowly conquer that way that you're feeling. But that's the video this week on the comfort zone method, which I like to call it. So I hope this has been beneficial to a few people, or everyone, or I hope at the very least you liked listening to the sound of my voice. But anyway, hopefully be back soon with another video. See you later.